Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, hopefully having an amazing day. Ray tracing is now a very important feature, I think, for most PC gamers. Sure, when Nvidia first announced it for the Turing series of graphics cards, for example the RTX 2080, many games didn't really take full advantage of it. Well, that's putting it a little bit mildly, and in some cases the implementation was actually kind of broken and looked better with it disabled. But when we started to get games like Control from Remedy, we really started to see a preview of what ray tracing can bring to the table, and now with games such as Cyberpunk and Alan Wake 2, by goodness, they look pretty indeed. Now obviously you may decide to disable ray tracing if you have a mid-range GPU or you need the frame rate, especially in a multiplayer title, but if you can afford the frames, then, oh well, the games just look absolutely amazing. To that end, there is some really good news actually for AMD's future when it comes to ray tracing, because they have been lagging, of course, behind NVIDIA in ray tracing for some time. So we're going to talk a little bit about RDNA 4 and also touch on RDNA 5 as well. So according to Kepler L2 on Twitter, who's been pretty reliable, ray tracing looks brand new. And he, of course, states that ray tracing in RDNA 4 looks completely different over RDNA 3. So again, RDNA 2 did bring ray tracing to AMD graphics cards with the RDNA 2 based RX 6000 series, and then RDNA 3 basically had several improvements on that, and performance is better, especially in some titles, but RDNA 4 really does seem to be I wouldn't say ground up design, because obviously we're going to have to wait and see official documentation to really know 100%, but there certainly seems to be a very, very, very big difference indeed, and there are a couple of other compelling pieces of evidence for this. One of them is Olrak29, who's also had a very good track record on Twitter, says that new work group processor, who dis, and of course he is referring to RDNA 4 here. This is a tweet which dates back to November 23, 2023. And we also have Sony. The rumor is, of course, that the PlayStation 5 Pro does seem to be utilizing a entirely new ray tracing IP. Now, initially it wasn't clear whether it was a Sony invention and how much of it was to do with software and so on, but it seems clearer and clearer at this point that basically Sony are taking the AMD IP, in this case from RDNA 4, and basically putting it into the PS5 Pro with some elements of RDNA 3 and some other bits and pieces. Basically, it's a pretty hybrid design. It's going to be very interesting, actually, if Sony does a full breakdown of the GPU. I would really like that, because presumably they would also give more information on the PS5 base model console as well, because, well, you know, they need to give us an apples to apples comparison, otherwise we're just kind of saying, oh, that's nice. It's like if you don't have anything to compare it to, much of the innovations would be very difficult to kind of understand, at least you presume. But anyway, getting back to the point, so yeah, I'm also hearing that there are some significant improvements for RDNA 4's ray tracing, and what I will also add to that, touching on the PS5 Pro thing for just a bit longer, we can't exactly say that the performance targets of the PS5 Pro, Sony allegedly are telling developers it's 2 to 4 times faster than the base model console. We can't, of course, infer that for RDNA 4 exactly, because there are a number of improvements to the PS5 Pro's GPU. For example, there's additional memory bandwidth, but outside of that, well, one of the big ones is it's just got a crap ton more compute units. Assuming the rumor is true, it's 36 in the base model console and 60 on the Pro console, but again, there are probably some architectural changes as well, so exactly what has changed between the two consoles, it's going to be very interesting, and seeing how that breaks down to the desktop. Adding to this, from what I'm hearing, RDNA 5 also has significant improvements in the ray tracing as well. So it doesn't seem to be a step like RDNA 2 to 3. Now, exactly what has changed, I'm getting a little bit of conflicting information. Some people are telling me that there is a much more NVIDIA-like approach with RDNA 5 when it comes to ray tracing, but how that exactly differs from RDNA 4, it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, While ray tracing, you know, you can offload a lot of the work to, well, the RT units themselves, when you're talking about like triangle intersection testing and other bits and pieces. But ultimately, on current NVIDIA GPUs, still the actual CUDA cores are still doing quite a bit of work. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the next generation of GPUs from NVIDIA actually does for that. I will be actually quite hyped if RDNA 4 does live up to the rumors for a mid-range GPU, because ultimately, yeah, sure, it's not going to be competing with like the 5080 or the 5090, but honestly, it just doesn't need to. If the card has a couple of really compelling SKUs at like 399, 499, whatever, and it is much more NVIDIA-like in performance, and it basically ticks all the boxes, for example, power, draw, heat, software, you know what the general, you know, kind of tick list is for PC gamers, I would be super happy with that, guys. Like, that would be absolutely phenomenal for me. That would be absolutely amazing. And I'll also be very interested to see what Sony discloses, because I always find it very curious to see a comparison between what Sony, for example, or Microsoft have changed versus the PC iteration of hardware. Anyway, guys, I think that's just about it for this particular video. I wanted to try out a shorter kind of video style today. Apologies for not being on camera. I'm pretty much over the whole bubonic plague that I was dealing with, but I'm still not 100% normal, so things should return tomorrow to well, me being back on camera. But for now, I'm going to let you all go. Have an amazing day. Stay safe. Bye for now.